Hi, I'm Professor Beck Strah.
And I'm Professor Eric Bronson. And this is Prison Breakdown.
2, 3, break!
Hate to spoil his fun, but we're gonna bust out of here.
2, 3, break!
I'm locked in here with you. You're locked in here with me.
2, 3, break!
I can honestly say I'm a changed man. No danger to society here. God's honest truth.
2, 3, break!
I'm not leaving this cell. I'll get out my way. The right way.
2, 3, break!
Ahoy, dudes! Welcome back, my Jolly Rogers. This is the pirate ship. Joining me is my co-pirate.
Oh, I mean, ahoy.
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 And our pirate deucer.
Ahoy.
Ahoy. What's happening, my friends? How are we today?
We're doing well. How are you doing?
I am outstanding. School is done for the year. And,
Summertime.
Summertime. And as our band Sublime said, the living's easy, I believe.
Yeah. I love to tell all my friends with those, working stiff jobs that, hey, I'm on break until the end of August. Sorry.
It feels really good. I mean, we work hard sometimes, but this is that time when I get to work a little more leisurely.
Well, I'm looking forward to probably this Friday. The toughest decision I'm going to have this Friday is I'm going to look at my lazy boy and my couch, and my toughest decision is going to be which one am I going to sit on.
Looking at his lazy boy, is there looking in the mirror?
Yes, it is. Those are good days.
And yes, exactly. Making tough decisions like that feels pretty good sometimes. Also, let it be noted, this podcast is no fan of Sublime.
Oh no, definitely not. Especially after their bassist came out as a red hat. Like, come on.
Really? Any kind of like white reggae type band like them or Slightly Stupid is just like the most irritating of musics.
Yeah, like let's have some real white reggae folks like UB40.
Yes. Yeah, or the Police.
Yes.
Both of which are obnoxious. But UB40 does have something to them. What is it that makes like Red Wine such a bop?
I don't know. And it's a Neil Diamond song, which is even crazier.
Right.
Is it really? You love Neil Diamond.
Oh, I despise Neil Diamond. I would like to put him into a diamond cutting machine. A Neil Diamond cutting machine.
Oh shit.
And as I'm doing it, I just go bum bum bum.
It's just like feeding him into a wood chipper is the motion that Britt made.
Cherry baby.
Oh geez.
Hey, Eric, who is your least favorite musician or like type of music? Like white reggae is like my number one. I hate this. Like what's your least favorite?
Oh boy, that's a tough question that I'm not.
And honestly, I don't like reggae in general. It is just more irritating than most types of music to me.
Why?
People act like it's like enforced fun. Oh no, you have to like reggae. How could you not like reggae? It's so fun. No, it's annoying.
Interesting that annoys you.
These are earworms. They get stuck in my head for like days. I don't like it.
I tell you what, the type of music that just makes me cringe and I just lose it is any type of worship music. It just, when I go to churches and it's not even like they try to make the lyrics make any sense other than just praise God and he's good and he lifts me up and I'm just a shitty ass person and I'm horrible and thank God for everything and
I'd actually listen to that song. Like,
what's that?
I'd actually listen to that song. Like, I'm a shitty person, God.
Is that like Shiny Happy People? Yeah, I don't know. I just can't. It feels so fake and forced. I can't deal with it.
There's something nostalgic I like about some of those songs where like my wife and I went to Portugal as part of our honeymoon / elopement. And when we got there, it was like the Pope was in town. It was like, I don't know, World God Day or something like that. And anywhere you walked in Lisbon, you could hear like praise music. So like we're walking around and I'm like, oh, God is an awesome God. And Ellie's like, how my wife Ellie is like, how do you know all the words? And like you grow up listening to this stuff if your parents make you go to church. And honestly, our God is an awesome God is a banger. I love that song. It's so much fun.
That I want to rake my eyeballs out.
But your eyes aren't hearing anything.
The screams that come out of my mouth as I rake my eyeballs out will take care of what's going into my ears then.
That's perfect. It's you're borrowing from Peter to pay Paul, one of those things. but make yourself blind in the process, apparently.
Oh, hey, something I just want to point out that there is a current manhunt going on, and I think we need to talk about it. Are you all ready for news?
Beep. Yep.
Hot off the razor wire.
Fresh news, hot off the razor wire.
So I don't know if we can keep that kind of that going because, man, this is important stuff. Manhunt ongoing. The reason why is our favorite place to observe corrections, Louisiana. On May 16, 2025, 10 inmates of the Orleans Parish Prison, located in New Orleans, Louisiana, escaped through a hole in the wall behind a toilet. 6 of the 10 inmates were charged with murder or attempted murder, and 5 inmates have since been recaptured as of this recording. So the escape at 12:23 a.m. Inmates at the Orleans Parish Prison, which is interesting because it's actually a jail, who managed to escape their cells due to faulty locks being tampered with, a locked sliding door for about 20 minutes before pulling it off tracks and gaining entry into the cell. Once inside, the group ripped off a toilet and sink unit into the cell and cut off horizontal bars from a hole behind the toilet that was used to connect pipes. This sounds almost a little bit like what the hell was going on with Shawshank, where he smashed the pipe and crawled into it and crawled through 500 yards of shit to get out of the prison. But exactly. Above the hole where the inmates escaped from, they wrote the phrases "too easy," LOL, and "we innocent." I love that they left an outgoing message.
Do you think all of them are innocent?
Yeah, we innocent. But authorities said the guards assigned to watching their cell pod was away getting food at the time of the escape. Which, cool. Hey, when you're in Louisiana, of course, you're going to stop watching inmates and go get some food. After squeezing through the hole, the group fled through a loading dock, scaling a wall, then running across Interstate 10 highway. By 1:30 a.m., the group was outside the jail. The inmates were discovered missing at 8:30 a.m. during a routine head count. So, taking a look at what we got here, the escapees ranged in age from 19 to 42. Several had been charged with murder. Others were charged with aggravated assault with a firearm, false imprisonment with a weapon, armed robbery with a firearm, and domestic abuse. So if we look at who we've caught, Corey Boyd, charged with second-degree murder, has been caught. DeKennon Dennis, charged with armed robbery with a firearm and illegal carrying of a weapon during crime of violence. Gary Price has been caught, charged with attempted first-degree murder, simple assault, criminal damage, domestic abuse, battery, and assault with a weapon. Wow. He's got quite the business card there. Robert Moody, charged with attempted second-degree battery and obstruction. Kendall Miles was charged with intention to conceal a weapon, introducing contraband into a prison, and possession of contraband. So those are the individuals who have been apprehended. The 5 that are still running: Jermaine Donald, charged with second-degree murder, aggravated battery, and possession of a firearm; Derek Groves, convicted of second-degree murder; Antoine Massey, charged with domestic abuse involving strangulation, along with automotive theft; Leo Tate, charged with second-degree murder; and Lenton Van Buren, charged with second-degree murder, are all still on the run. Many people have commented on this about whether or not these folks are going to be found. It's rare that individuals that are on the run and escapees are not caught. Overwhelmingly, everybody is found. It might not happen right away, but normally they are found rather quickly within the first 48 hours. The other interesting thing is a jail maintenance worker was arrested yesterday, accused of turning off the water in order to aid the escapees removing the toilet. And then 3 others were suspended. 3 other employees were suspended without pay pending the outcome of the investigation. Wow. So that's where we're at with our escape from the jail. There's lots of social media flying around with individuals with the CCTV footage of them making their run and taking off. It's I'm sure every single one of them will be caught, and we might see them in the future when we're running one of our classes and taking students down to Angola, because that's where all of them are going to be after this. They are going to get life sentences down there.
Well, allegedly. We don't know that they're going to be convicted. I think they stand to do perhaps a little more time after this escape.
Yes.
And I don't know exactly where this jail is in terms of New Orleans. Is it the one that's near the highway? So they can. So their escape route is much clearer than if they were to get out in the French Quarter. It would be very hard to hide anywhere effectively there.
I think 2 of them were caught in the French Quarter. So why did you go that direction where there's TVs on everywhere, your faces are going to be everywhere? Why are you running in that direction, especially if there's any markings that you have that make you stand out? You go towards places where it's easy to hide, I would think. But we know Louisiana. We know what's going on down there. They're gonna we can, yes, allegedly, even if they don't get convicted of the crimes that they were being held on, they are now going to be convicted of their escapes.
We are Louisiana.
Yeah. Yes.
Us and the crawdad.
Yep.
Am I exactly. Right? This is Bayou Beck. This is our new character. Ask me anything. I think about it. Where would you? I would go to like the swamps or somewhere that's like relatively uninhabited. New Orleans is a great cultural hub. Outside of New Orleans is like nothing.
Right.
It's a lot of like nothing all around.
Right.
Where would you go?
You don't have to go far to get to be out of civilization in Louisiana.
Yeah.
You just get to the other side of Lake Pontchartrain and I mean, hell, just around Lake Pontchartrain, and there's, if you can find a boat to steal, you've got to get away for quite some time, and you can hide in those swamps for quite some time. Especially if you can catch a gator, right, and have some gator meat.
Gator. You can go hide out in the old, the old Six Flags that's been long abandoned there. I love watching like abandoned YouTube videos, and there are so many on that Six Flags. It was open for like a year before Katrina hit, and it's been closed ever since. Yeah. Britt, where would you hide in Louisiana, or New Orleans area?
I mean, if I was on the run, I'd get out of that area.
Pronto.
Yeah. But I'd probably like hide in a spooky house, haunted house somewhere.
Oh, I love that. Yep. That's exactly where I'd hide.
Yeah. That's the thing. There's so many places to hide down there, I think. But clearly this this jail where they're at is a disaster if they're able to rip the bathroom fixtures off the wall, and get and create a hole that they can get out of. Obviously, this place is just falling apart, and is it needs to be updated and funded properly, which clearly has not been happening.
It was funny to see the
there we go.
L too easy, we innocent. It was funny to see that it's like a cutout. It looks like somebody took a box cutter to the side of their cell where they escaped from. It's crazy. It's interesting to see that this doesn't happen more often, or that it's taken so long to happen there when it seems like it doesn't appear to have been that difficult for them to pull off. Like,
no,
I'm sure that in terms of like the mastermind of this whole plan, it doesn't take a genius to figure this out.
No, well, and the other, the fact that they were able to rip the cell door off the tracks, and I shouldn't say rip it off. I'm sure they figured out a way to use some leverage to get it off the track, and kind of like the screen door on a sliding door, that type of thing, where they were able to maneuver it around and get it. That just, the fact that it's that easy for them to move and then have all those individuals in a cell also suggests, with the one person who is watching the cell block going off to get food, obviously it's understaffed and they need to staff the jail a little bit better.
I bet the food was worth it, though. New Orleans, great.
Definitely.
Great food city.
Definitely. If they had some gumbo down there, I'd have some inmates escaping on me too.
Oh yeah, I spilled gumbo on my shirt when we were at the rodeo, and you know what? It was worth it.
Yeah, it definitely was. Definitely was good gumbo made by the inmates. It was good stuff.
Yeah, it was awesome. And Britt and I, last time we were in New Orleans, we went on a stroll about town, trying to find a Taco Bell so we could get the quesarito, I believe it was called. There's a limited time menu item, and we walked across town. We walked into a neighborhood that like slowly became a scrap metal yard, and so not the best part of town, and and over to our Taco Bell, and guess what? They didn't have it anymore.
No.
Limited time was up for the quesarito.
Yeah.
Time's up, baby.
That's too bad.
Instead, we got po' boys, and you know what? Nothing's ever tasted sweeter.
Yeah, and we found the best po' boys that we found the entire time we were in New Orleans on that walk. Like, we went back there a couple times. That place was great.
After was it near that Taco Bell?
Yeah.
Ish. Yeah.
Well, that is our news for the day.
So we'll keep abreast of this developing situation, and in the meantime,
Okay.
let's move on to the main event, shall we?
Oh,
yes, we shall.
Before that, I think we should talk a little bit about our sponsor.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, indeed. Who's that sponsor of ours? Remind me again.
Oh, that would be the Roger Williams University School of Justice Studies.
I love that place.
It is. It's pretty awesome. There's a couple fantastic professors over there. We're not going to name anyone right now, but
just a couple, just two,
just a couple, two of them specifically that are just dynamic and dashing, good looking.
Oh. Yes.
Yeah.
Got my heart aflutter.
Right. So the School of Justice Studies offers degrees in legal studies, criminal justice, forensic science, sociology, anthropology, political science, and international relations, as well as master's degrees in criminal justice and public administration.
Those are some master's degrees I think are pretty cool.
They are pretty damn good. You want to not only have a great career and be able to promote, take a look at those degrees because they will help you move ahead in this world.
Yes. And you know what? Welcome to our department.
Yes, it's going to be fun.
To sociology, anthropology, and
political science. Yeah.
We welcome
All
you
right.
with open arms. We like to make ourselves a little more. I'm glad we're joining with them. I think the bigger boat, and we got some good folks joining.
Yeah, exactly. We have more people on our pirate ship.
More people on the ship, and give us maybe a little more of a social sciences lean than rather than this idea of like the what do they call it? Professional schools. We're more liberal arts.
Yeah, definitely. It's driving home the social science in us, and I know Carla's not going to love to hear that, Carla Marriott, because she wants to make sure that she's recognized as that natural science and forensic science, but we're sucking her over into the social science world, whether she likes it or not.
And you know,
maybe we could say that she's up in the crow's nest of our pirate ship.
I will gladly say that.
Yeah. Or should we call it the hawk nest?
Yes,
Oh,
indeed. The hawk nest. Just to keep on brand with our mascot.
Yes. Okay. Perfect. All right.
Go Hawks. And you know what? You can be recognized as a scientist.
Mm-hmm.
We're happy to recognize you as such.
Absolutely.
You just get to hang out with the cool kids.
Yes, she does. All right.
So, thank you, Roger Williams, University School of Justice Studies. We appreciate you and salute you.
All right.
Shall we move on? Let's talk about a main event that we have.
Yes.
Do it.
The main event. Now, today we have two shorter stories about notable inmates who spent a little bit of time in the walls at Huntsville. We're carrying on this thread of Huntsville for another couple episodes, just dragging it out. But these two are interesting. We're going to start out by talking about a man named Dwayne Chapman, and he's barely a man. He's more of a dog man because they call him Dog. What do you two know about Dog the Bounty Hunter other than our recent conversations about this Chapman?
He was a reality television star for like all of my youth, basically. Yeah.
I was in terms of the show, I know almost nothing. This is one of those individuals where the character is bigger than the show, because I've never seen an episode, and yet I know as soon as you say, Dog the Bounty Hunter, I know exactly what you're talking about.
He's a cultural icon, and like kind of one of those cultural icons who he's more famous for being famous than anything, I guess.
Yeah.
Like people don't really know that much. I bet if you ask somebody on the street, like, what does a bounty hunter do? They go, no, they hunt bounties, but there's more to it than that. You want to explain exactly what bounty hunters do?
Sure. They hunt bounties.
Shut the fuck up.
So, well, excuse me. So what they really do is they work with bail bondsmen.
Yeah.
And these are depending on where you're at and how much crime you got going on and type of jurisdiction you live in. The use of bail bondsmen is can be very common. And so if you just and because we're talking about Texas and the Walls unit, bail bondsmen are very common throughout Texas, especially in the towns where they have the jails, larger jails. And what they do is that, when the judge sets a bond, you can pay a bail bondsman a certain amount, typically 10% of what the bond is, and they put up the rest. And what they're doing is they are guaranteeing you will be there. And If you don't show, then typically the bail bondsman will work with a bounty hunter who is going to receive a commission, or as it's typically called, a bounty, for your return to the jail. And typically what happens is if you skip out on trial, there is a warrant put out for you. So that's what the bounty hunters use to gain entry to properties, and there are very different laws that they follow than police officers. But an arrest warrant's issued by the court after you skip out on your court date, and so therefore they have a lot of rights and can essentially march right into a house and search it. I mean, it's they get away with a lot as typically known as the bail enforcement officer, but we like to call them the bounty hunters because that's more fun.
Oh yeah. So in short, you go to a bail bondsman, say your bail is $1,000. The judge sets it at $1,000. You give the bail bondsman $100. That's $100 you don't get back, but the bail bondsman will put up the rest of that money up front, and then you, as the person on bail, have to show up for your court date. If you don't show up for that court date, they send a bounty hunter on your ass, and they're going to track you down or not. But that's the whole idea. And we should also put out there, bail bondsmen, this is a topic for a different episode, but they're parasites. They are predatory. It's like predatory lending, essentially. Yeah. And it sucks that we have to have bail bondsmen in the first place.
Yep. Yeah, it sure is.
It's always struck me as like such a racket. I understand why you would need that if you're trying to get somebody out of jail, but I hate it.
Yeah. No, they're awful.
The whole cash bail thing that whole system is broken, completely broken.
Right.
It is a nightmare. Yes, I completely agree. And you look at the stats on it, and there's some places like New York that has like a bail fund, and they find that they loan people money for bail, and it's something like 97% of people come back. So it's typically not a money loser, and you can find other ways, like releasing people on recognizance, other ways of doing it that are not harmful to the government, which they're not losing any money. It's not harmful to the public. It is, the whole idea of bail is just an insurance on your showing up for court.
Yep.
Anyway, that's a topic for another episode. Today we're talking about Doggo Chapman. This man was born in 1953, raised in Denver, Colorado. His parents were a welder and a Sunday school teacher. His dad, though, was a physically abusive man and would beat Dwayne's legs black and blue with a belt every day, according to him. And so you rebel. He rebels, at least. At the age of 15, Chapman joined a motorcycle gang called the Devil's Disciples, and he ran away from home. It's a pretty badass name.
Yeah.
So we cut forward in time to 1976. And our boy Dwayne, he's 23 years old. He's married. He has 2 sons. And he says about this time, even though I was married, I was still enjoying the biker life, whoring around, smoking pot, and drinking whiskey until I was completely out of control. I don't think that was a very good dog.
No, we need to find somebody who's better at it, but we'll take it. I think producer Britt might need to read all of his quotes.
I agree. So in 1976, he goes to Pampa, Texas. Are you familiar with Pampa?
I am. I used to live very close to Pampa. Well, in Texas terms, in the Panhandle, where I lived in the Panhandle, just south of Amarillo. If anything else is in the Panhandle, it's considered close. So it was about 50 miles away from where I lived. A lot of my students, when I was teaching at West Texas, were from Pampa. And probably the most famous person from Pampa, I would say, is old folk singer Woody Guthrie.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and it's also known for having a very good rodeo. I never attended it, but it's one of their claim to fames in Pampa But yeah,
It's not a prison rodeo now, is it?
no, it's not. No, it's a regular, real rodeo. And it's a pretty well known one for the Panhandle. But yeah, the big claim to fame is Woody Guthrie and then the Topo, Texas rodeo that they hold each year.
Great name, Topo, Texas.
Topo, Texas.
Now, so 1976. Dog is 23 years old. He's not even called Dog yet, as far as I know. And he's in Pampa, Texas, with a few other dumb kids in his gang, a couple teenagers, and a 22-year-old. And together, they drive to the home of a guy named Jerry Oliver. He's a 69-year-old dude they know to be a weed dealer, and they plan to rob him. And so Dwayne waits in the car with the teens while the 22-year-old named Donald Kuykendall, he goes into the home. He blasts Jerry Oliver in the armpit with a sawed-off shotgun, and he flees the scene. Cops get called to the address, and Jerry Oliver is still conscious enough to give the officers the names of Kuykendall and Chapman, and then he dies the next day. So police start their investigation. They show up to Chapman's house the next day, and they arrest him. Chapman tries to run. He tries to leave through the back door. He gets quickly caught. He's taken to jail, gets a $10,000 bond, and the rest of the group gets caught. And in 1977, found guilty of murder. And so an associate who was not present for the robbery confirmed their plan. And it was found that even though Chapman stayed in the car, he had brought along his own weapon. And he gave Donald the shotgun cartridges that killed Oliver. So he was found culpable. And he received a 5-year sentence on the charge of first-degree murder, which is, I don't understand that.
Yeah.
Did he like flip state's evidence against anyone else, or?
It was not entirely clear. Like there was not a lot on this exact thing. I found much more about his time in prison.
Is he more like Rat the Bounty Hunter?
So he gets a 5-year sentence. Interestingly, to this day, he's still prohibited from owning firearms because of his felony conviction. That's why he carries a taser when all of his colleagues have guns.
Really?
Yeah. And people in prison found out that he was in for first-degree murder. And to defend himself, he said he threatened to tie a hammer on the end of a broomstick to knock the brains out of anyone who came at him. And I don't know how he even got a hammer in prison. Like a hammer would be enough.
Right. Why do you need to tie it on the end of a broomstick? Extended, keep 4 feet away from me, or I hit you with my long hammer.
If I had a hammer, well, I'd tie it on a broomstick all over this land.
So he stated in an interview with Fox News that his time incarcerated inspired him to become a bounty hunter.
Yeah, well, didn't he say didn't he stop somebody who was trying to escape?
Oh, Eric,
isn't that what the claim is?
Story.
Oh boy, yep. I can't wait. I mean, this the more and more I look into him, wow, he is just a piece of work. But go ahead.
So while he's in prison, he claims his friend Bigfoot was trying to escape. And I wonder if this was actually Bigfoot.
Roomed with Bigfoot. Sasquatch.
We had him for a moment in Texas.
Yeah.
So Dwayne and Bigfoot were really close. And he's outside of the gate at the prison in his barber shop when Bigfoot is running out of the prison, and he tackles Bigfoot before the COs can shoot him. A lieutenant who is in the barbershop where Dwayne was working, which I'll get to in a moment, a lieutenant in the barbershop had already drawn his .38 and was preparing to fire. And while Dwayne was on top of the inmate, he said a CO threw down a pair of handcuffs and said, "Hook him up, bounty hunter."
Oh, stop.
Which inspired his career.
No. Is this... because he's out there telling people this story.
It's myth making is what it feels like to me.
Absolutely.
And apparently when he went to get his badge for bounty hunting, the cop in charge asked him what his number was, and he said 271097, which was his prison number, and that's still his badge number today.
Oh, geez.
You know, that's kind of cool. I'm not gonna lie, that's kind of cool.
I don't mind that. I think it's one of those like when we talked about Tim Allen and the judge said, "Hey man, you're really funny. You should be a comedian." And Tim Allen's like, "Oh, that inspired me. I became more. I really leaned into my comedy after that I was funny." So yeah, during his time at the Walls, Dwayne Chapman was a warden's barber, which I can't imagine him being anyone's barber. He is a notably shitty haircut. Ironic mullet that just died.
That's a good point.
Now, wait a second. You got to remember where he was at.
Yeah, that's true. So does everyone have worse haircuts in Texas?
And also the time too, you know? Like,
yeah, exactly.
Come on, like he has like an 80s mullet, and like what's a more, 80s, what's a more Texas haircut than like an 80s mullet?
Yeah, that's right.
Especially in the 80s.
That's right.
Yeah, I bet it was cutting edge in the 1970s too. Now, he says he elevated himself to this position of the warden's barber, and it was the high mucka mucka big shot worker position. Mm-hmm. His words, not mine. Nobody messed with him because he says he made the warden look good. And he didn't know how to cut hair, but he says he read books at night and learned how to be a barber.
Come on. Really?
Can you learn to be a barber from a book?
Come on. This is so bad.
I mean, barbers do require more training than police officers, so I'm sure they have textbooks of some sort.
I bet they do, but I feel like there's some like on the job component that you have to like learn by seeing and doing more than the book learning. There's some things that book learning it just doesn't seem to apply as much. Now, as the warden's barber, he claims all the guards were my friends.
Nah.
And he also claims that during the trial, nobody turned state's evidence and ratted. All four of the defendants got convicted of murder. But I do see some contradictions there also if he's like pals with the COs. He's like,
right.
He's not the inmate.
No,
he's the institution's inmate.
Right. Yeah. I think producer Britt hit that nail right on the head when he was Rat the Bounty Hunter.
Yep. And because he was outgoing, the warden also made Dwayne an inmate counselor, where his job was to inform inmates of bad news, like if there was a death in the family. And he would sit down and pray with the inmates. And these inmates would often be sent to the hole because they were considered at higher risk of escape. And Dog says he was the most spoiled prisoner in the state of Texas for working for the warden this way. So as an inmate counselor, he would inform inmates of this bad news, like a death in the family. He would pray with inmates, but inmates who lost someone in their family would be sent to the hole since they were considered at higher risk of escape. So not only do they have a death in the family, but they're essentially being punished for having someone in their family die, which also really sucks.
Yeah, that does. Here, I've got some really bad news for you. Twice, because you lost a family member. Oh, and that cell where you have somebody to talk to, we're going to take you away from that and stick you in solitary confinement for the next 2 weeks or however long. It's just awful. Yeah, exactly.
And so Dwayne says he was the most spoiled prisoner in the state of Texas because he got to work for the warden and do this. And toward the end of his time in prison, they offered him a job holding electrical lines for trucks to drive on them. He also participated in horticultural classes on release. And he claims that when he showed up for horticultural classes, he asked the instructor, "Where's the whores at?"
Really?
Yes. He says that he had seen movies where you come back from prison and there's hot girls, but there were no girls, and he had to take horticulture class for 6 months.
Oh. Wow.
Now, during his time in prison, he had a pastor visit him, and the pastor offered to say a prayer to get his bond lowered. And a few days later, a judge lowered the amount of his bond, and Dwayne started to believe. And he got a key to the chapel while he was there. He claims he would go there to sing and pray. He also says he liked it when he got sent to the hole, so he could take that time to pray. He said that the hole was like Cool Hand Luke and it was sparse. It was bare conditions with only a hole in the bottom for the bathroom and sand on the floor.
I don't know. That sounds like a guy who's never been to the hole. Like he's heard it described before by a lot of people, but like as he said, he was the most spoiled prisoner. Like,
right. There's a lot of contradiction in his accounts here, like this. It was fascinating reading all this.
Yeah.
And so he ended up serving 18 months at the walls before he finally gets paroled. And he eventually takes on bounty hunting after release when he couldn't pay his child support bills. Surprise. And he's of course a guy with child support.
I'm sorry. He only ended up spending 18 months in jail for murder.
Yeah.
Well, he wasn't the one who, he stayed outside while the murder occurred. So
yeah, but still felony murder.
Right. I mean, why wasn't he charged with like conspiracy to commit?
Because like they were trying to rob the guy, right?
Yeah.
And wow, in Texas in the 70s, only 18 months.
Right? You would think much worse. Maybe the character of Texas has really just gone a different direction since I was born. But
Yep. Yeah. Well, it's also interesting that, and I guess I would, you'd have to inform me on this. After he got out and became a bounty hunter, where did he start to become a bounty hunter at?
I did not pick up that information.
Okay, because just knowing what it takes to become a bounty hunter in Texas, I'm guessing that he went somewhere else to become a bounty hunter, or maybe these rules or laws or certificate, whatever, they weren't in place back then, because now you can't have a Class A misdemeanor or a felony conviction to become a bounty hunter in Texas. So I would love to know how he got around that. The other thing is you have to obtain a license either as a peace officer, which obviously he couldn't do, but you could be a private investigator, or the easiest one of them all is the commissioned security officer in Texas. So again, I'd love to know how he got around that whole thing, or maybe he was never actually, because he worked with his dad or something, he was never actually the bounty hunter. But
according to Google AI, it started in Colorado, particularly the Denver area. And it wasn't until 2003 when he caught someone in Mexico that he really got fame and acclaim as a bounty hunter.
Okay.
But after his parole, so he can't pay his child support. He's trying bounty hunting. A judge says, hey, maybe you should do this as your job. And interestingly, Dog claims that he had angels walk up to him and tell him to stop what he's doing in his life after prison. And he says God warns all convicts and nobody listens. So he learned to listen. And he claims God made him famous. How do you feel about that?
Of course he did. Well, I mean, those are the types of prayers God answers. Right? Forget about, taking care of the starving kids. God is much more interested in trying to find ways to make certain people famous.
Yeah. God listened to his prayers, not the starving kids' prayers, but Dwayne Chapman wants to be famous, and God is ready to make him a celebrity. In his recent book, 9 Lives and Counting, A Bounty Hunter's Journey to Faith, Hope, and Redemption by Dwayne Chapman and his wife, Francie, Dwayne talks about the murder, and he says, I did not do that. I was there. One of my biker brothers went inside. There was a scuffle. He got shot, and he passed. They finally let me out after 18 months because they found out I didn't do it. And honestly, that doesn't sound like how parole works. It doesn't sound like how the system works at all.
Wow. This is good stuff.
Also, his book is called 9 Lives and Counting, and his name's Dog. It's not Cat, the bounty hunter. Do you think he knows? Should someone tell him?
No, just let him roll with it.
Yeah.
He's also got a lot of weird shit to say. He writes in his book, I have spent the last 27 years trying to be one of the good guys. In spite of those efforts to be seen as a moral man of virtue, I am still viewed as an ex-con, a criminal, a killer. I'm many things, including those just mentioned. Put it all together and you will see I am Dog.
Oh, geez.
And speaking of that time, Dog also says he has gone from ex-con to icon, and he's a road blazer who blazes the road and plows the field. That's a quote. He now goes to prisons on speaking events and is now bounty hunting souls for Jesus Christ.
Okay.
He also speaks highly of law enforcement. He says his best friends are cops and judges, so he thinks it's a miracle that this happened.
Of course, it is a miracle.
Wow.
Yeah, and anything that is, I don't know, inexplicable, like his success is a miracle of some sort. And Dwayne Chapman currently does speaking engagements in prisons, and he seems to see himself as a Christ-like figure. He says the last thing Christ did was take a sinner up to heaven, so I'm following in his footsteps.
Yeah.
He's going to take a sinner to heaven? Is he going to kill someone? Is he going to do like a murder-suicide with someone he catches? I don't...
I don't understand anything he says. I love watching him in interviews, but it is so cursed. It is so nothing he says really coheres or makes sense. His brain is just, it's applesauce. There's nothing there.
Nothing needs to be there. Nothing needs to be there. God is doing it all for him.
Right. And also, he's not a man. He's a dog. He's got a dog
with
brain.
9 lives.
Yeah, as all dogs have. So that's closing the book on Dog the Bounty Hunter. I do want to talk about some of his more recent exploits. Before the podcast, I had you two watch an interview where he pushes back against some allegations of racism and homophobia. What do we have to say about that?
Well, it goes along with everything else that, just the mush that's going on between his ears. I mean, there's this, the excuses or the justifications for being able to say racist things are just kind of unbelievable. I'd love for these folks to just say, hey, you know what? Yeah, that was 10 years ago. I've grown from this. I've learned from this. I was wrong for saying it, rather than, hey, I saw a black guy once. And therefore I'm allowed to say it because I'm in the club. Yeah. Britt.
Yeah.
Sorry, Dog. What do you have to say about it?
Yeah. How could I be racist? There's no way I'm racist. I live in Hawaii. Do you know how many races there are here? At least 4. And I'm friends with all of the races. In fact, I am all of the races. How could I be racist? I'm 50% Apache. I'm also 33% from the Ivory Coast, 12% Moroccan, and 8% Morocco.
He had some excellent quotes on this interview. Like his propensity for sound bites is really something else.
Oh, I think he thought of this stuff beforehand, and he's like, how can I work this in? Yeah, he's how could I be racist? I'd lay down my life for a black man, anytime. I take a bullet. I see a black man, someone pointed a gun at him, I'm getting in front of that gun.
Yeah.
If he's a guy about to commit suicide, he's going to put himself between.
No, don't do it. I'll save you.
He puts himself between the gun and the guy's head.
Yeah.
His quotes were like, "I have more black friends than Eminem."
That was
it was so stupid.
What I
That's
really
so
want to know, because
specific. It's like,
one of the
he's
things
like-
does he claim to have more black friends than he has children? Because doesn't he have like 13 kids and 6 wives, 5 ex-wives, some kind of crazy crap like that?
Yeah.
I think 3 ex-wives. I watched an interview with him and his kids, and they gave his kids most of the speaking time, and it was incredibly dull. His kids are like a black hole of charisma, where he is at least interesting to watch.
Yeah. He should have called his book, instead of nine lives, 9 wives.
Yeah.
9
So,
wives.
yeah. Here's his list of spouses. LaFonda Sue, Honeycutt, 72 to 77. Ann Tegnell, 79 to 82. Lissa Ray Britton, 82 to 91. Tawny Marie, Tawny Marie, 91 to 2002. Beth Smith, 2006, died in 19. Currently married to Francis Frayne.
Wow.
And it says 13 children.
Holy
There seems to
moly.
be some kind of controversy with him and getting married again, because he told his kids he was never going to date again. I don't know. I don't care. It's one of those. Anyway, he was accused of using a racial slur 7 times when talking to his son on the phone. And
7 times in one conversation?
In one conversation.
At that point, you're forcing it.
You're really working it in.
Did he just is that the new word of the day he saw on his word of the day calendar? He's like, oh, I just learned this one. I got to use this his slur of the day calendar.
Oh, it's a Jewish one tomorrow. It's just like, God, it's reprehensible.
Yeah.
And his excuse for it was like, he said, "Oh, I had access to that in prison. It was used by the black tribe, and it was a compliment." So, was he trying to compliment his son 7 times?
Was he calling his son the N-word?
He also said, "I didn't know that pass expired," which
Yeah.
Yeah. You got to go to the DMV to renew that one every 5 years.
he's hilarious. I honestly did not mind. It's like Stockholm syndrome. After a while, I did not mind watching the videos on him, but he's frustrating because he doesn't talk in a straight line like many people do. He's all over the place, and it's impossible to follow his path at times. Mm-hmm. When he starts talking about angels and demons and stuff like that, it's too much.
That's great. That is great.
So let's talk about another gentleman who got sentenced to prison. This one is actually pretty cool. So Chad Butler, also known as Pimp C, is born and raised in Texas and notable for rapping with his partner Bun B in the Houston-based rap group UGK. They were signed in Big Time Records. Their first album, The Southern Way, was released in '88, and they eventually switched labels to Jive, and they broke through in 1992 with their album Too Hard to Swallow. Now, this wasn't Pimp C and Bun B were rappers I was into in the early 2000s. When I was in high school, when I thought it was very cool to underground rap from the Houston area. There were a significant number of rappers who got big around that time from the Houston area, such as Paul Wall, Mike Jones, Bun B, Pimp C, and Chameleonaire. Did I miss any, Britt?
No. I met Paul Wall. He was a really nice guy. Really nice guy.
And I am forever envious of that point. And what did you say to him? What did he say to you?
So I was at a music festival, this was 10 years ago. And I was on a ton of acid, and I was wandering past some merch booths and stuff, and I see this guy, and I'm like, faces are moving and stuff. But I'm like, I think that's Paul Wall. And so I go up to the booth and I'm like, are you Paul Wall? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like, oh, and I don't really listen to your stuff, but you had a pretty huge impact. And, you were kind of a big part of my childhood. My brother listened to a lot of you, and he's like, oh, that's really cool to hear, man. Thanks. And he was just a really cool dude.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah, good vibes.
I
good
got a
vibes.
shout out. That's nice too.
Yeah.
You gotta love it when people who are celebrities, no matter what level, can actually be appreciative of the folks that are helping keep them, make them celebrities and keep them there.
Mm-hmm.
The ones that are just, oh, you're below me. I can't deal with those people.
Or they interact with people like JD Vance, where it's like, how long have you worked here? Okay. like people who just don't know how to interact with. I think of like Paul McCartney, for example, and I've never interacted with him, probably never will, but like his brain has to be melted by like being one of the most famous people alive for the past 50, 60 years. Mm-hmm. And he can't be like normally adjusted as a person.
Right. There's no way.
Yeah, he seems like, honestly, but for the level of fame he has and has had for such a sustained amount of time, he seems well adjusted. Like at least he's never really gone off in a public way at all, in a way that's like concerning at all. He seems,
he's like relatively normal.
He seems pretty level-headed, especially for being, as you said, like one of the most famous people for the longest amount of time. Like I can't think of any other person who's been that famous for that long.
Except Ringo, of course.
Sure, we'll say that.
Anyway, we digress. Pimp C and Bun B, they were a couple of rappers who were super influential in pioneering the Southern rap scene in the 1990s, and they made quite an impact there. Eric, were you aware of Pimp C and Bun B at all when you were living in Texas?
Simply because, again, it's funny because this is, the degrees of separation stuff, but not through people, but through towns. The second time the Bronsons lived in Texas, we lived in Beaumont, Texas, which is one of the three towns that make up the Golden Triangle. The other two being Orange, Texas, which I don't know how that became part of it, other than a little bit of oil was there. But Port Arthur, Texas, is the other main one. But I believe both Pimp C and Bun B were from Port Arthur, Texas, in terms of where they bonded and where they kind of started out of before really getting the fame. And so that's kind of how first came to know about them. It was one of those situations where he had actually, Pimp C had actually died before I got to Texas, got to Beaumont, Texas, but he's still famous enough from being there because I think that region of Texas, it was boomtown. It's boomtown in America because of the oil industry. Yeah. And there's so much poverty. There's so much inequality that exists in that area that anything that's good that comes out of there, they tend to hold on to as a kind of like, basking in the reflected glory of others. Hey, good things can come out of here because it's just not a great part of the United States or of Texas. And it, so in anything that was positive, they kept talking about. And so I was able to learn about them as a result. But, I wasn't a part of that huge underground rap world that you were.
I wouldn't say it was huge, but I really enjoyed it. So Pimp C is probably most famous for guesting on the track Big Pimpin' with Jay-Z, and he was also featured with Bun B on the song Sippin' on Some Syrup by 3 6 Mafia. So he's incredibly influential. They're releasing albums, and around 2001, Pimp C, Chad Butler, goes into a mall. His friend is saying he's acting volatile at the time. His friend and his frequent collaborator, DJ Screw, had died less than a month prior from overdosing on a drink called lean, which is also called purple drank, scissor, or syrup. That's a cocktail made from prescription strength cough syrup and soda. And Chad, he's like not at his best, and he goes into a shoe store, and he has a gun in the back of his jeans in his waistband. And there's a woman there who's having a bad day. This woman and Pimp C, they both lose their temper. They were yelling at each other, and the two of them get in this yelling argument. She backs away. She reaches in her purse. Pimp C thinks she's carrying. He lifts up his shirt to show that he's strapped too. And the girl and her friends leave. They contact a police officer, and he gets arrested. And accounts are pretty mixed. Like, some of her friends said he pulled a gun. Some said he didn't pull a gun. Witnesses who were with her didn't see him pull a gun on her. So Chad, or Pimp C, is leaving the mall. He ignores the officer's commands to hit the ground and show his hands, and he has two officers rush him, and they got him on the ground, and several more come up and start kicking him and hitting him. And he's taken to the hospital, where he has these bruises all over his body, and he passes out at the hospital, but they take him to jail. They charge him with aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. And he told journalists, he showed him his pistol, but there wasn't any injury. But in the state of Texas, if a person fears for their life and you have a weapon on you, that is aggravated assault. Now, this also happened at a time in the early 2000s when Texas was so deep into the prison industrial complex. As a fun fact, at that time, 5% of the adult population of Texas was involved in the criminal justice system.
That's it? I figured it'd be a lot higher than that.
It's enough to exceed the entire population of Vermont, of Wyoming, or of Alaska. And for black dudes between 21 and 29 years old, like Pimp C, it was like 29% of people, roughly 1 in 3 black dudes in their 20s were involved in the criminal justice system.
And if you think about what that does for the black community in Texas, where you're essentially missing a third of young black males, 18 to 28 years old from the community, from their families. You can't, that's not something that's easy to account for in terms of the devastation that it does for the community and for families, and for individuals that are growing up in that situation where so many individuals are incarcerated. It's pure devastation.
Pure devastation. Absolutely. And so Pimp C ends up pleading no contest to an aggravated assault gun charge in 2002. And initially, he wasn't facing a prison sentence. He was just on probation, but he racked up a handful of violations for testing positive for marijuana. He failed to keep up on community service hours, failed to pay court fees, and he didn't report on a few occasions. And the ultimate violation was he did not want to engage in the substance abuse felony punishment program. It was this treatment program for people involved in the Texas criminal justice system who were at risk of probation or parole revocation from drug use. So he's out on probation, and they say no more, and they give him 8 years in prison, and he ends up serving 4 and gets out in 2005. But while he's in prison, Pimp C releases his first solo album. It's called The Sweet James Jones Stories. It was drawn from a bunch of freestyle raps he had done years prior. He called the album Subpar, but it went to number 3 on the rap charts. And he wasn't happy with it, but he's like, whatever, it's something I can do to make money while I'm incarcerated. And it keeps his name out there. It keeps him relevant. And it was revealed that while he was in jail, his contract with UGK and Jive Records had a death in jail clause. If one of the 2 rappers in UGK died or went to jail, they could replace that rapper, but the replacement rapper would make a lower % of the earnings. And so when Pimp C went to jail, his rap partner, Bun B, asked Pimp C if he wanted to flex that clause. And Pimp C was like, no. And he shut it down and put out this solo album instead. And when he was released, he spoke out against record labels, and he came out hard in favor of unionizing, noting that record labels don't want people working together. Like if you divide people, it makes people easier to conquer. Mm-hmm. And he recognized this and spoke out against it, which I think is unique and pretty cool, honestly.
Yeah, I think, record labels are, you want to talk about, them and the whole industry is so predatory when you have these individuals coming out. It's trying to do this, I'm sure, where if you were trying to get get these individuals unionized, I'm sure they were, it was a pure battle to keep any type of union out of there. Just because the more intelligent these artists are, the harder it will be to exploit them.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if you two remember this, but there was actually a movement that got started because of him, the Free Pimp C movement. It was a catchphrase, and I recall hearing it in songs or people wearing it in music videos, T-shirts that said "Free Pimp C" from like Paul Wall, Chamillionaire, David Banner, Slim Thug, Lil Flip, Mike Jones. There were shirts, there were merch. You would hear it in rap verses, you'd hear it in interviews, and it made Pimp C this icon for being locked up. Now, in prison, Pimp C was in the general population. He worked as a cleaner and worked in the cafeteria serving meals. And one source said his prison nickname was Windex.
Nice.
Which is pretty tight. He worked in the prison library so he could read. And his favorite books were writings by Sun Tzu, Machiavelli, Iceberg Slim, and James Patterson. Which one of these is not like the others?
Sun Tzu, definitely. Odd man out. James Patterson is a deep philosopher.
He said in every unit he went to, COs wanted to lock him up, and they made him sign papers to cover their asses in case something went down because he was a notable inmate. And he said that this made him do harder time than he would have done. Like he had no interest in being in protective custody where he couldn't move around. And he met a lot of talented dudes in prison. People weren't trying to bother him. They wanted to get parallel with him. They wanted to make connections and get into the rap industry. And he said there were haters, but most people were cool with him. And every time there was one guy who wanted to get him, he would have 5 or 6 guys nearby who would join his side. He only had one incident his whole time there, said it resolved very quickly. But some of the COs didn't like him, surprise, and these were generally the kind of fellas who didn't like rap music or black folks in general.
Wait, you mean all the guards didn't love him like they loved Dog the Bounty Hunter?
Yeah, right? Like, is this a surprise? We have a real contrast here.
Someone who's being a little more honest about how their time behind bars went.
Yeah, exactly. That or someone who like doesn't snitch, and someone who like just wants to do his own time versus
right.
Versus the guy who's licking the boots of the warden.
Right. And like, oh, surprise, surprise. I didn't want to spend all my time in solitary confinement.
Yeah, exactly. So Pimp C, he said he avoided the community television and he preferred to hang out in a cell listening to a clock radio he had smuggled in. Community television is a thing that we don't talk about much on this podcast, but it would suck. Like community television, you're watching whatever the community wants, whatever the majority wants. And when I worked in jail, this was often like 2.5 Men and Family Guy, where it's the kind of bullshit they had on a lot of the time. I can't say most inmates have good taste in television.
No, there's a lot of soap operas going on during the afternoon. and the inmates the inmates who are into them don't miss a single day of it.
Ironically, a lot of Cops and Live PD would be playing while I worked in jail too.
Yep. They're going to see, hey, who's going to be with us soon?
Yeah, right. So Pimp C described his time in prison as mostly bored and lonely and manic depressive. The hardest part for him in prison was being away from his family, which included 2 young sons and a daughter who was only a month old since he got locked up. Notice Dog didn't say anything like that. He had 2 young kids. And
right.
No mention of them. Just no. Mention of how he was good buddies with the COs. And Pimp C found it hard to sleep, and he spent his nights reading books and writing songs. And he claims he wrote over 2,000 songs while he was behind bars, mostly on IRS notices. And there was no access to instruments, so he would write in like insert guitar here or begin drum beat. But in the louder units, he said he could get a lot of work done. He could write like 9 songs in 3 days when he's in a loud unit, but when it's quiet and it's dead, he's just not inspired. Which I always think it's easier to work when it's quiet, but maybe he's inspired by whatever noise is happening outside of the cell, and he's putting that together and forming a beat in his mind. I don't know. I don't think musically like that. Right? You ever do that?
Yeah, sometimes, it's a little easier to like kind of pick stuff up when you're like, especially like writing lyrics and stuff, like being out around people, you kind of get like inspiration and you like hear little snippets of conversations and like hearing little snippets of conversations like tells a story in itself. And if you're a storyteller, like a lot of rappers are, like, you got a lot of fodder right there.
Totally.
Yeah.
So while he was incarcerated, Pimp C also spent his energy working on a GED since he had dropped out of high school as a senior to focus on his music career. And he said he had regret for the crime he committed, but he was trying to stay positive and do positive things to get himself home as soon as possible. And he did a lot of responding to fan mail, which he got a lot of in prison. He did say that Harris County Jail was the rawest thing he experienced during his incarceration. He said the law was breaking arms and they weren't there to help. And also, because jail is a much more transitory place, this whole transitory nature made the place crazy, since there's a lot of young dudes and people with all different kinds of classifications mixed together instead of separating people into different units by classification based on like need and like level of crime and like institutional history of violence, that kind of thing. And in the jail, there was a lot of gang-related activity, but the anger was too mixed up, and half of these guys didn't even know what they were mad about. Have you been to Harris County Jail, Eric?
Well, I tell you what, I had. Excuse me. The main jail, I've just been outside of it, and they have several holding facilities at different places. Because Harris County Jail is massive. It's you're talking about a major city and with what is it, fourth largest city in the U.S. and with a lot of crime. So it's a massive place, and so throughout town they have different places to hold people until they can move them from that spot in a group over to Harris County because it's just an enormous facility. So I haven't been inside the actual Harris County jail. No.
Yeah. That's actually is like satellite facilities for this larger jail.
Just keep people here for a couple hours and then transport them over.
So Pimp C, when he got released from prison, he had 10 to 12 friends outside waiting for him. They had a mink coat, money, and jewelry all waiting for him so he can feel lavish again. And he told reporters that his friends and his fans can put away all their free Pimp C shirts and hats. He's back. He's out. And then he drops a couple of albums in 2006 and 2007 and unfortunately died in 2007 from a lean overdose interacting with his sleep apnea. And it's a sad ending, but it's interesting in contrast to see like the ways that people can spend their time in prison and how they portray themselves in prison versus like Dog portrays himself as like, oh, I'm a man of the people, but he's a man of the administration essentially. Whereas Pimp C is like a man of the people. And he's like, I want to be left alone and kind of do my time, but I'm going to get along with people while I'm in here and just work on self-improvement and try to do something for me. That's my takeaway from these two. What do you two get?
That's I like that, in terms of, hey, if there's any opportunity for self-improvement, like he's going to try and find a way to do it. That's good stuff. If you have individuals who are able to do that while they're locked up, that's wonderful.
Yeah. Try to make myself smarter, educate myself while I'm here instead of spending this time in just dead air.
Yeah, improve in some way with some of the opportunities that are available.
Yeah, isn't it wild that Pimp C got 4 years as opposed to 18 months for Dog the Bounty Hunter?
Yeah,
I mean, it makes you wonder why.
One was involved in a murder; the other was involved in
showing a gun. Maybe.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. And it goes back to the justice system is not just. The justice system is targeted to oppress.
Yeah. No, it doesn't dispense justice. It dispenses punishment.
Yes, there we go. Yeah, we should call it the criminal punishment system.
Yeah.
The problem is if we did that, it would potentially get even worse than it already is.
Yeah, because then, then the worst cops and COs would be like, yeah.
I love this job.
Yeah. It's like God, remember when Nikki Haley was on the campaign trail and she's like, we should call it the Department of Offense.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And instead of the Department of Defense, and it's like, wait, what?
That's
Yeah.
concern. Red flag here. Red flag on that play.
It's that same like linguistic trick that like I see what you're trying to do here in terms of shaping a department. Anyway, that is the end of our tales about famous inmates for today. Shall we move on to the movie minutes?
Let's get
Yes.
into it.
Movie minute. 60 seconds with producer Britt to talk about movies.
Let's put 60 seconds on the clock. So, gosh, like a month ago, Judge Bronson here sentenced me to watch The Traveling Executioner from 1970. So, The Traveling Executioner from 1970 is a black comedy directed by Jack Smite, the director of Airport 1975, which was from 1974, which is very confusing to me. The movie...
It's futuristic.
Yeah, the movie centers on Jonas Candide, played by Stacy Keach, in a pretty powerful performance, actually. He plays a former carnival showman who, in 1918, has changed careers to a traveling electric chair executioner, a job for which he's paid $100 in execution. Candide is not only known for his novel and supposedly more humane version of execution, but also his kind bedside manner, in which he tells his victims of the fields of ambrosia and the splendor that awaits them after death. Candide is tasked with executing a man and his sister, and while he executes the man, he subsequently falls in love with the sister. He makes plans to delay her execution and break her out of jail, but in attempting to get money for their escape, Candide makes a series of unfortunate mistakes and is charged with murder and sentenced to die by his own machine.
What?
This movie was great, actually. It's wry, dark humor, a solid script, great time-appropriate sets and costuming, good acting, and a pretty compelling story. Made this a really enjoyable watch, especially for a 1970s film. But it's known as an early example of like new Hollywood, which was kind of started by like Stanley Kubrick with Dr. Strangelove, and so it's an example of like the kind of new pacing of film that started to develop in the late 60s and early 70s, you know.
Oh, yeah.
But, you know, a lot of 70s movies still have that old style pacing. This is a lot better about that. And even though it's like dry and dark, it's a pretty, you know, tight, like 95 minutes or something like that. So oddly, as of now, this film has yet to be released in HD and only exists on VHS and DVD and also on streaming, but in SD quality. And I definitely think it deserves a new transfer because it's a pretty cool film, even though I'd never heard of it before. 4 out of 5 soups.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's one of the highest we've seen.
I'm stunned.
Pretty good film.
Yeah, I will have to check this out. Honestly,
yeah.
From you describing the plot, I was like, this actually sounds engaging and interesting.
No, it was, and like I wasn't really prepared for it. At first, it started out, and I'm like, oh, this is kind of just like a kind of a dry Western comedy-ish, but like, and it at no points is it like super laugh out loud funny, but it does like parts you're like, oh wow, that's dark. But Stacy Keach puts in like a powerhouse performance. He has a couple monologues in the film that made me go, damn, Stacy Keach can really act weird.
Yeah, he's the kind of actor who's like he's in so much dog shit that I always assume something he's in is going to be bad, but he as an actor is recognizably excellent.
Yeah, no, pretty darn good. I'd recommend.
Judge Bronson, you have any sentence for next week?
No, I do not. I will have to look up something something else that'll work for the next time.
All right, for next time, I'm going to sentence. Then I'm going to sentence producer Britt to a little movie I watched recently, a movie called "Do the Right Thing" from 1989. I'm very curious to get your thoughts.
All right, into it. Some Spike Lee.
Indeed. Well, we want to thank our sponsor one more time. Hey, Roger Williams University School of Justice Studies. We appreciate you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for being a loyal sponsor. And it's time for bed. CO, what do you say?
Lights out.
Lights out.